in 2021, there were over 149 million advert views opened. Very short report breakdown. In this report, we'll offer data on consumer consideration, consumer demand, and consumer intent. Now, since 2019, we've been using these terms. So at the end, if you want me to define them for you, happy to do so. But you'll see these terms, consumer consideration, consumer demand, and consumer intent, come through in every single report. This presentation and the report itself serves to offer a snapshot of leading and lagging indicators of demand in the South African automotive buying cycle. The demand in the South African automotive buying cycle is what I was talking about right at the beginning, and that is we're moving fast away from this push strategy where OEMs manufacture cars and push them into the market, and fast into a world of data where consumer consideration and that data becomes the source of what vehicles to put out in the market, what features consumers want. So we've seen a 44% increase year on year in consumer consideration, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. The top three brands, listen to this stat, make up 37% of a share out of 147 brands on AutoTrader. So the top three make up 37%. And it just shows you that beyond the top three, there is massive scope for other OEMs to bring that top three to the top 5, top 10 in terms of the lion's share of brands getting consumer consideration. We've however noticed consumers are considering more brands now, which means that 37% is going to begin diluting. Consumers are not only just browsing the usual suspects, and I think the internet creates that. So that's consumer consideration, right at the top of the funnel. Moving on to consumer demand. In 2021, there were over 149 million advert views opened on AutoTrader, representing about a 48% increase year on year, which correlates to the searches and to our site traffic. Now, advert views are the precursor to an inquiry to buy a car, which gets us further down the funnel. A 48% increase, which is higher than our average search increase and traffic, tells me that there is quality conversion happening on AutoTrader. Despite lockdown in 2021 and 2020 and 2021, luxury brands are still performing incredibly well in terms of new car sales. But from our data, we can see that luxury brands such as Porsche, Ferrari, and Lamborghini are reaching all-time highs in terms of the second-hand vehicle market when it comes to consumer advert views or the advert views being looked at. And it also supports the evidence of a growing income gap. Everybody knows that the income gap in South Africa is growing, and there isn't any lack of people searching for cars at that very high end. As an example, the searches for Porsche have increased by 46% year on year. So in summary, the most viewed brand from an advert view point of view is BMW. The most viewed model is the Toyota Hilux. And then the most viewed variant, which was traditionally and always the VW Golf GTI, is now the Toyota Hilux 2.8 GD6. So the VW Golf GTI was the hero at the top there for a very long time, but it's in the last 6 months been trumped by the Toyota Hilux 2.8 GD6. Now you've got to ask yourself why. Is it because during the pandemic, during lockdown, people are going for more versatile vehicles, maybe starting their own businesses? I'll leave that up to you to decide, and maybe we can do some studies or research to find out. But we've just seen this Toyota Hilux 2.8 GD6 trump the VW Golf GTI. So that's kind of the midway through the funnel, consumer demand. And then we get to consumer intent, which is the most inquired on vehicles. And besides consumer consideration at the top of the funnel and the leading indicator of consumer demand, the advert view, they're all important, but we have to take consumer intent into account. And it's a key indicator in the sales funnel. Consumer intent, as I said, speaks to inquiries on vehicles, which is actually an action taken by the consumer to ask whether the vehicle is still available or whether they can buy it. And the Toyota Hilux remains the top pickup for South African consumers, as you can see in the #1 spot there. And it's interesting to see that makes and models that do well in consideration don't necessarily feature at the bottom of the purchasing funnel, namely the section we're looking at now, which is consumer intent. As an example, the Isuzu KB does not feature in the top 10 in terms of searches and advert views. But you can see that it features in the top 10 in terms of intent, which is number 10 on the screen that you see. Another example is Kia, who doesn't feature in the top 10 in terms of searches and advert views.